Welcome back. Now, about a week after the two main contenders in the presidential election launched their manifestos, we examine the promises made and how realistic they are in realizing the Kenyan dream. We'll be talking to the National Super Alliance Principal, Musalia Mudavadi, tomorrow. But that is tomorrow, as I said. But tonight, we begin with the Jubilee Party, and we host Deputy President William Ruto. What are your thoughts on the Jubilee Manifesto? Talk to us. The hashtag is GamePlan2017 on Twitter, and you can text us on 22422. Your Excellency, the Deputy President, thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Thank you very much, Hussein, for having me.
Karibu.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. First, we'll take a look very briefly. I mean, we cannot highlight everything, but just the highlights of the Jubilee Manifesto. Graphically, if you can have that now up, some of the things that they are promising. That is in the 2017 Manifesto launched last week. Right. On jobs, they were talking about creating 1.3 million jobs annually, creating industrial hubs in each county. Of course, this is also to spur jobs, apprenticeship for TVETs, establish a Jira platform for job placement. On education, free primary and secondary education, expand HELB to include TVET students and establish centers of excellence. On health, they talk about free primary health care for all, 3-year-long postnatal cover, medical cover for over 70-year-olds in the country. That will be free. Okay, and housing, build 500,000 low-cost houses in 5 years. Establish the National Social Housing Development Fund, improve slum conditions for 4 million dwellers. On water, another ambitious project here, complete 57 large dams, enhance water harvesting, and expand piped water access by 5.4 million, that is to households, 5.4 million. Security, extend security cameras to other towns, build 20,000 police houses annually, and equip the forensic lab. Food security, stabilize prices of foodstuff, reduce post-harvest losses, expand irrigation. Infrastructure, expand the SGR to Malaba, expand the Nairobi-Mombasa highway to a 6-lane highway, and complete the LAPSET project. And energy, connect every house to power by 2020. That is in 3 years' time. Invest in wind and geothermal power. And on governance and corruption and accountability, reduce wastage of public resources and promote women in leadership. But of course, there's still more if you go in detail in the manifesto.
Precisely.
Thank you so much again for making time for us. First, let's begin with one of the key issues in the manifesto. We've just talked about is the last one. That is governance, accountability, and corruption. It's a major problem in this country, corruption. We all agree with that. I begin with it because it is currently dominating the campaign trails, what we've been seeing the opposition saying, what we've been seeing the government saying. This is what you have been saying lately. If we can listen to that. Okay, we'll have that shortly. But you've said the opposition, that is NASA. Okay, we have it now. Let's play it.
The NASA, or is it called whatever it is called, the NASA group, they have no moral authority to talk about corruption cartels, because their entire campaign, including the choppers they are using, is funded by corrupt cartels who siphoned billions of money from Anglo leasing to every other scandal that took place in our country. We want to tell them the story they are telling us about corruption cartels, they can go and tell it to their birds.
Right, and we'll look at what the manifesto, your manifesto exactly proposes about corruption. But why do you say that? What do you mean when you say that?
Well, it is not for me to say. If you have been following the media is awash with what the allegations being made about who is funding who. So I think the rightful people you should be asking is our competitors. They need to explain to the country. The media has pointedly said that they are in cohorts with people who have all manner of records.
Right. We'll be hosting Mudavadi tomorrow.
I hope you.
He'll be outside, and we hope you respond to that. But still, you have said it. You have been on the campaign trail, and you have said it. Meaning, Your Excellency, if you know people are corrupt and are supporting NASA, and NASA is benefiting from corruption, why not take action? Maybe that's not your mandate. Why not give information to investigative agencies to actualize this, so that people don't say or people don't think this is just politicking?
As I said, Hussein, the issue of NASA being funded by corrupt cartels did not come from us.
But you've said it.
It came from the media. It came from investigative journalism. That's the reality. And our position as Jubilee has been consistent. We have made sure that every agency charged with governance, making sure that the public is not robbed, that public resources are used prudently, from the courts, through the EACC, through the TPP, and every other institution, has been properly resourced in terms of personnel, in terms of hardware, in terms of software. We have made sure that there is financial capability for these institutions to discharge their responsibility. And let me say this. That is why, Hussein, we have in the last 4.5 years moved this country very far. That is why today we are constructing 7,000 kilometers of road. It has never happened before. That is why we've connected 4 million households. It's never happened to electricity. That is why we have an SGR that is functioning. It is because we said no to corruption.
Okay.
It is because we said there wouldn't be public officers serving in our government who will be involved in corruption, and they serve. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll come to that. We'll come to that. But so you're saying what you're basing your remarks on was media reports, not what you know.
And let me tell you, Hussein, this is in the public domain. You know, I mean, we're just cutting around issues. You know, the reality is that our friends, our competitors, should be answering why it is that there is all these allegations that their campaigns are being funded by people with dirty hands.
Let's hear how they responded to you, and this is what Kalonzo Musyoka said on the campaign trail.
Jana Ruto anasema ati NASA sisi tunapatiwa pesa na makatel, na waweka pale jina la Jimmy Wanjigi. Mwenye kupatia Ruto pesa zote ni Jimmy Wanjigi. Mahali walikosania, na muuliza Jimmy Wanjigi aambie Kenyans the truth about William Ruto.
How do you respond to that?
Well, I think Kalonzo should be answering the allegations that they are getting money, proceeds of corrupt deals, instead of dropping names. The name Jimmy Wanjigi did not come from me. It came from Kalonzo Musyoka.
Right.
So he must be knowing more than I do about Jimmy Wanjigi and about the corruption cartel.
Okay, but
maybe he should get an opportunity to explain himself.
And we hope he does. But he says, from what he's saying, Jimmy Wanjigi has been funding you. Do you know Jimmy Wanjigi? Have you interacted with Jimmy Wanjigi?
I know Jimmy Wanjigi very well. Very many Kenyans know Jimmy Wanjigi. But he has never funded me in any way, for whatever reason, in whatever manner.
Okay. Kalonzo Musyoka, when saying this, and he also said this in his book, Against All Odds.
Yeah.
Kalonzo Musyoka said, and I quote, "I clearly remember the night I felt betrayed by Uhuru and Ruto. This was the night our alliance died, that is in 2013 or 2012 thereabout. We had agreed with Ruto that I would be on the presidential ticket with Uhuru as my running mate, or vice versa. Ruto was to be the majority leader. I don't know how true that is.
That's a lot of nonsense.
Okay. Then he says, then on that night, Uhuru and Ruto arrived at my home in the company of Jimmy Wanjigi, a Nairobi businessman and political strategist." He goes on to explain who Jimmy Wanjigi is. Is the son of former cabinet minister Maina Wanjigi. So how do you know Jimmy Wanjigi? From what he's saying is you introduced
that meeting.
You introduced Jimmy Wanjigi to him.
We didn't introduce Jimmy Wanjigi to him. It is Jimmy Wanjigi who introduced us to Kalonzo. He is the one who organized the meeting. That's how it was.
So
Jimmy Wanjigi organized the meeting.
Right. And the opposition is also saying from this, and they've been saying on the campaign trail, why does it look funny now that Jimmy Wanjigi is working with NASA, yet you had no problem when he was working with you and Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013?
We have not said that Jimmy Wanjigi is the Anglo-Leasing connection. They are the ones who have said it. So you should be able to ask them. As for the other details of this meeting, Kalonzo Musyoka should know better. You know, there was never discussion about him being on a presidential ticket. People should be honest, right? In fact, that night, the reason why we didn't engage Kalonzo Musyoka thereafter is because he told us a very weird thing, a very callous, if I may say, thing. He told us, gentlemen, why don't you allow me to become president? In any case, you will be in jail for 10 years, after which, when you come back, I will be through with being president, and you can take over from there. How does that sound, now that Kalonzo Musyoka decided to bring this issue? I wasn't going to say it, but now that he's brought it, that is how we left Kalonzo Musyoka house in a hurry, because we realized we are not dealing with a friend.
Okay, from what you're saying then, you have no problem with Jimmy Wanjigi and his dealings with you in the past, or the Jubilee coalition, then URP and TNA becoming a coalition, Jubilee coalition. You have never had a problem with him?
We have never had a problem with anybody. We have never had, I don't even, the introduction of Jimmy Wanjigi into the whole of these circles is a Kalonzo Musyoka issue. You should be able to ask Kalonzo Musyoka those issues, my friend.
Okay, and we'll find time to get him
Absolutely.
And ask him those issues. But like, as you say, you've never had an issue with him, and you still don't have an issue with him. They also question the opposition, and Raila Odinga talked about this when he said, when they say some people are corrupt, why have they not taken action? That is hypocrisy of the highest order, because you are labeling all the NASA principal as having corrupt history. Why haven't you ever taken action on them?
You see, we live in a constitutional dispensation where the president or the deputy president is not the one to take people to court or to jail or to prosecute people. There are institutions, and I have said here, and I will repeat, that it is our responsibility to make sure that those institutions work independently of government. Our participation in those institutions is to make sure that every institution, from the DPP to the EACC to the courts, have sufficient resources to discharge their mandate. That is a question maybe you may want to direct to either to the DPP or to the Chief Justice or to the EAC.
But you have been saying it on the campaign trail that they have no moral ground to speak against corruption.
Absolutely.
Because you're saying...
Because all manner of allegations are all over the place.
Against them.
Against them.
All manner of allegations are also in place against you, Deputy
That's
President.
fine. That's fine. So that's why I'm saying they shouldn't be giving us lectures. Because they've made it look like they are very clean people, which in my very respectful opinion, they are not.
Because of the allegation against them?
Because of all manner of things that you know, and all manner of allegations that have been made.
Okay, so would you say the same about you? The same allegations being made about you will mean you also not a clean person? Because they've been numerous.
You see, on this particular one, nobody has prosecuted, nobody has taken evidence. On everything that has been said about William Ruto, the due process has been followed.
Well,
and I'm standing here.
In some cases, also for them, in fact, in their cases, the cases that you talked about, they were never actually taken to court, and they were all cleared. We've never had any of them being convicted at the end of the day. So what's the difference?
That's why I'm saying this is a useless debate for them to keep trying to talk about us as corrupt, when the allegations made against us have been cleared, the allegations against them have been cleared. So who is talking about what?
Okay.
We should be talking about a strategy on who has achieved something for this country.
Okay, let's talk about the strategy now in the manifesto about corruption. This is what you're saying. Of course, we can talk about everything, but this is just the key highlights on governance and accountability in your manifesto. You talk about reducing wastage of public resources. You talk about prosecuting corruption cases in 6 months, protecting whistleblowers, jail time for economic crimes, and there's still more. But shouldn't we have expected a policy on what is to happen if public officials are named or linked to graft or integrity issues negatively? Because at the heart of corruption, Your Excellency, are people. Why haven't we seen that? A position taken by Jubilee on this in your manifesto.
In what? or indeed?
Both.
We have taken positions indeed. This is the only government. This is the only government that has dismissed 6 cabinet secretaries on mere allegations, innocent people, right? None of them having been charged for anything, but in the interest of the fight against corruption, we took action, right? So if you are talking about taking action, as for people who have been named this way or that way, we have demonstrated, not in word. Okay. We have demonstrated indeed.
But later on, it was not followed through.
By who? By the courts, by the institutions that are responsible. I mean, if you have dismissed somebody for this allegation and that allegation, it is up to the institutions responsible to follow through. But some of them have been cleared, right? Yet they have lost their jobs.
Okay, but we have seen.
But that's a sacrifice you make when you want to fight corruption.
Okay, we have seen, Your Excellency, still again after these cabinet secretaries and other government officials were told to step aside, we have seen some still remain in government, yet there are active investigations against them, including what happened in the health ministry. So it wasn't something that was...
Let me tell you, Hussein, when we took the action we took earlier, and subsequently, most of the allegations that were made against the people did not have any did not hold any water. We became careful that we could destroy people's careers for allegations that eventually have no merit. And that is why we've said we should allow the process to move to a stage where there is something substantive that can give us the latitude to then take action, either step aside or dismiss. But going into the future, we have to balance between the fight against corruption and the right to innocence, you know, that somebody is innocent until proven guilty.
And that is why I'm asking, why hasn't that been provided in the manifesto so that there is clarity?
Because we are already doing it.
For example, Your Excellency, if a public official, appointed public official, even elected, if one is linked to corruption or integrity issues negatively, he or she should step aside immediately or stay until we wait for conviction, or even say, for those who do, or for those who give false claims against others, there'll be also tough penalties against them. Why didn't we have that in the manifesto so that we have clarity?
You see, Hussein, there are things we are already implementing in what we are doing. There are already regulations in government that are ongoing. There is no need to provide for those kind of regulations already that in a manifesto. And in any case, going into the future, our position as Jubilee is that we must do everything possible to make sure that we don't end up with loose ends that facilitate corruption. We front load the mechanism to prevent any corrupt dealings taking place in government. And that's what we've done. For example, let me give you an example of the road sector. The biggest problem with the road sector was corruption. There was something called Bill number 1, which was almost 20% of the cost of the road. And that is where the biggest chunk of corruption was perpetuated. What did we do? We reduced Bill number 1 to 50% of what it was. We also put a safeguard that for a contractor, before they are paid, they must do 10% of the job. And not just 10%, they must do complete, including, if it was a tarmac road, including putting tarmac on the first 10% of the road before they are paid next. That has wiped out a huge portion of the corrupt dealings that used to happen in the road sector. And progressively, we are putting in place mechanisms that will prevent corruption rather than wait until there is all manner of mess.
Okay.
And we try to go after people.
So with this finally lack of clarity on what exactly is to happen, do you, for example, regret when this cabinet secretary was supposed to step aside and ultimately they were found somewhat cleared as having done nothing?
I mean, if you cause an innocent person to suffer consequences that otherwise they are not guilty of, naturally you have to have some regret, unless you are not a human being, right? Okay. It is something that we have to keep balancing until we get the right balance. At what point do you ask somebody to step aside? At what point do you sack somebody?
That is what we expected the manifesto
That is,
to say.
that is where
it didn't
we're
say.
still finding the middle ground.
Okay. But that is exactly what we
But so
expected.
far,
that is what we expected the manifesto to say.
for us, what is working is the mechanism to prevent, as much as possible, work on mechanisms to prevent corruption rather than mechanisms to work on what has already happened.
Okay, let's take a look at other issues in the manifesto very quickly. Some have actually questioned, as I'm sure you've heard, whether Jubilee actually needed another manifesto. What I would ask is why, after enumerating the things you have achieved in the first term, you did not enumerate the things you did not achieve and the reason as to why you didn't achieve them. Very briefly, let's take a look at some of the fulfilled promises or achievements that you labeled in the manifesto recently. Achievements of the 2013 manifesto. Noted down in this manifesto currently 2017. SGR first phase was done according to the manifesto. Of course, you saw that. 1,950 kilometers of roads constructed. The manifesto says also 7,000 more are being constructed. 3.6
1,900 is what is complete.
Complete, yes, constructed.
This 7,000 is the overall that is continuing.
Okay. 3.65 million households connected to electricity. You also say 3.6 million connected to piped water. 800,000 jobs annually. Most of that, of course, we know is from the informal sector. 360 cases now being before courts, that is on corruption. Increased police capacity and numbers and increased NHIF subscribers. But this, Your Excellency, Deputy President, is some of the unfulfilled promises. You are very, I mean, you put all this in your manifesto, the things you have achieved. But this is what was not put in the manifesto in terms of the things you didn't achieve. You promised in 2013 a 7 to 10% economic growth. We never realized that.
We got 6%.
Okay, well, we never realized 7
If
to
you
10%.
target 7% and you get 6%, you're 80% there.
You promised also to reduce public debt. It actually soared by around 2.3 trillion. You promised 5,000 megawatts of electricity. What we have is about just under 700 megawatts, according to your manifesto. You said you'll upgrade 5 regional stadia. We never saw that. You talked about increasing the road network by 13,000 kilometers. We are not yet there. Laptops for school-age children. We didn't see that. It was changed midway to tablets. And you also said you will get 1 million acres under the Galana Kulalu project. That also hasn't happened, Your Excellency Deputy President. We'll go into these issues as we go on, but just one general question around all these things that you failed to do. Why wasn't it necessary for Jubilee, because you put all the achievements you made in the manifesto, why didn't you tell Kenyans, we also haven't achieved A, B, C, D, and this is why?
Hussein, among the things that you have said we enumerated that are being achieved, which
that is more, of course.
Which we did not mention. There are many more.
There are many more, yeah.
Matters to do with security. Today, Kenya is far much more secure than it was. We have 3,000 new police vehicles around. We have already 2 mega police, Nairobi, Mombasa, already under camera surveillance. We have an additional 30,000 men on the beat as security personnel. In fact, we have superseded the international set standard of 380 citizens to a police officer. We've done tremendous things to do with energy distribution. We've exceeded our targets in many of the things that we set out to do. Today we have technical training colleges around the country, and I want to proudly say in this show that we will be equipping the 130 technical training colleges by December this year. They will be complete. We have done an amazing job with the National Hospital Insurance Fund. All right? Now, coming to the items that you have raised, we said that we were going to add 10,000 kilometers, right? And if you read our manifesto, it was 10,000 in 10 years in our 2 terms.
I didn't remember. I didn't read that.
You better go and check.
I didn't read that because it said very clearly. It didn't say. It did not say. It did not specify.
You better go and check.
But hold on.
In any case,
it did not specify which in how many years. It said 10,000 kilometers of roads.
In any case, we are at 7,000. And let me tell you,
being constructed, not realized.
Let me tell you.
According to you.
Let me tell you. What we have done with the roads, my friend, is phenomenal. In 70 years, we constructed 12,000 kilometers of tarmac. In 4 years, we are constructing 7,000. It is unimaginable. In every part of this country. In fact, I spoke to one contractor and he told me he cannot believe, a local contractor, he said he cannot believe. And how did we achieve this? You know, let me just give me a minute.
Okay.
Because we did a couple of things, apart from what I told you, to change the configuration of how construction takes place. We also configured that there is no need to build a road with a 20-tonner going to your village. So we started another program of low-seal tarmac roads, which are carrying 3 tons, 5 tons, 2 tons, and we are doing an amazing job. So when we talk about the roads, my friend, we have exceeded what we promised. Let me go to Stadia. Stadia is a function that we share with county governments. Sometimes negotiations between us and county governments take time. Let me give you an example. Mombasa, we have everything in place, but we cannot access the stadium because we have a problem with the county government.
Okay.
In Kisumu, but as we are talking, the stadia in Wote, my friend, you don't tell me that you haven't seen. I'm willing, at my cost, to fly you to Wote, to fly you to Chuka,
right,
to fly you to Moyale, to fly you to Kamarin, to fly you to Eldoret, so that you can see that, in fact, in the next couple of months, all these stadia will be ready.
Fair enough, but, Your Excellency,
yes,
you promised 5 stadia. The person or the people getting into a contract with Kenyans, as you normally say it when you're doing the manifesto, is Jubilee. The leadership is the presidency, you and President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kenyans should not really care much as to why or whether there are problems with counties and all that. You should have explained, because this is what you promised.
Yes.
This is on the basis of this you were voted.
Absolutely.
I would like to think.
Absolutely.
But you did not deliver.
Absolutely.
Again, there's a tweet, and I hope we can respond. We can replay it again. That tweet you saw.
Which one is
from somebody from West Pokot saying, it's a. I mean, he doesn't understand where this issue about a stadium in West Pokot is coming from, because he hasn't seen it. That's what he's saying.
Let me tell you. I said, if you play back what I said in Safari Park in Kasarani, I said Kamarin Stadium, but I inadvertently said in West Pokot. Kamarin Stadium is not in West Pokot. Kamarin Stadium is in Elgeyo Marakwet.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very specific about which stadia I was talking about. But in any case, the stadia, for your information, in West Pokot is under construction. You know, something is going on there. But let me say this: as much as you're saying, and we are not trying to run away from responsibility. What we are saying, we experienced challenges initially, but my friend, we are there. You know, if you go today, you will see work going on, and this stadia will be ready. Let me go to laptops. For your information, we have 980 gadgets available today in our schools. We've done 85% of that job. In fact, in the course of this month of July, we will reach the 1 million tablet to our kids. And why did we change from laptop to tablet? You know, the matter here is cost. We were given a comparative analysis that you can achieve the same thing with a tablet. You can store content. The kids can access what you could get in a computer, but at a reduced cost. As a responsible government, and valuing public resources, we took the option to still deliver to our children our promise, but at a cost that would not be too heavy on the people of Kenya.
All right.
So that's really, and I don't think it's unreasonable to do that. I think anybody would buy that. So the promise along the list, the 1 million acres. Let me go there.
That's what I want to come to. But if you will let me answer this question, because we are going into food security now.
Yep.
You said, and I quote you, this is during your inauguration, the presidency in 2013. You said, and I quote you, masafara wanataka kujua bei ya unga itashuka lini from shilingi 100 to 60 shillings. What happened? Can you today admit that you failed Masafara?
I did not, because the plan to roll out the entire food security agenda, right? Number one, what did we do as Jubilee? The first thing we did when we came into government, knowing that the Constitution devolved the function of agriculture and food production, without waiting, a process that was supposed to take 3 years, we completed it in 1 year, because we knew the urgency and the importance of food production. Today, every county has the responsibility to produce food, and we have made sure that they have the resources to do it. We went over and above our responsibility to devolve funds and to make sure that functions are properly devolved. Our fertilizer subsidy program, we've doubled it. When I took over as Minister for Agriculture in 2008, the cost of a bag of fertilizer was 6,000. We've reduced it progressively. Jubilee has brought it down to 1,800. In our manifesto, we intend to bring it to 1,200 from next year. We went aggressively for irrigation, because that is where the only possible place where you can
this problem,
where you can expand land under food production. And we ran into problems with our project in Galana, because number one, we needed to deal with matters to do with aflatoxin. We needed to get the right variety of the seeds to be used there. Our first seeds produced 10 bags per acre, which is way below what we're looking for. So we've worked on that process. Today, we have seeds that produce 40 bags per acre, like it is in Kitale.
How many acres?
Let me just finish. Now we have the correct variety, number one. Number two, we have developed a seed that today is resistant to aflatoxin. In fact, it is among the best today in the world, working with people from Israel. Right? So what has happened, Hussein? What has happened? Then our analysis of the water availability in Galana showed that with the water we have, we needed to build a dam, which, for your information, we've not only started the process, but we have sourced for the funding so that we can build a dam in Galana that would actually enable us to deploy that 1 million acres. As we are talking today, we are working on 20,000 acres. We are working on 10,000 acres, which is the model farm, which is ongoing. Okay. We have already, and for your information, many people will want to make it look like it's a total failure. I have heard even some people say we have spent 15 billion.
And that is why I'm asking you. That is why I'm asking you.
Which is a lie.
That is why I'm asking you.
So
how many acres? How many acres are?
We now have under production 5,000 acres every month. And for your information, what is going to happen in Galana? And I'm talking about Galana alone, but we are talking about 360,000 acres outside Galana. Right. In other irrigation. Let's talk about Galana,
because this is very specific, Your Excellency. You said 1 million acres in 5 years. You're talking about the problems you encountered later.
Yeah.
There was a study done, and a lot of money was paid for this study, so that to establish whether this can happen. The study was done. The project began. I mean, in simple terms.
We carried out we carried out the study ourselves, Hussein.
But you did not fulfill what was in your manifesto.
We carried out the study ourselves. Yes, we did not fulfill what is there in our manifesto, but we certainly moved area under production, under irrigation, by 100,000 acres.
That is what we have now.
That's what we did. From where we were